Hi, I'm Jessica Goldberg, Director of Communications with CMCSS, and welcome to Focused on Reopening, a series of videos having conversations and discussions with CMCSS district leaders regarding reopening and the 2020-2021 school year. Today I'm joined by Anthony Johnson, Chief Communications Officer for CMCSS, and Anthony's here to answer some of those burning questions that parents, employees, and the community has had regarding the 2020-2021 school year. Welcome, Anthony.
Thank you, Jessica.
Anthony, can you explain to us what the continuum of options means?
So I want to start by acknowledging public education in a typical year is confusing. It's complex. I've been in education, public education for over a decade now. I started as a teacher, and I feel like every year I'm always learning something new. So when you throw in this unprecedented situation, it's going to be confusing. And I want to acknowledge that parents, guardians, our own employees, there's a lot of confusion. What is school going to look like? And one thing I want to reassure everybody is that you've got district leaders, you've got the communicable disease team, you have other community leaders, and even collaboration with other districts across our state and nation who are working together to ensure that no matter what, we're going to be prepared to continue educating our children. So in essence, the continuum of options, the continuum part means that no matter what the circumstances are of the pandemic, we're going to continue to provide a high quality education for our students. Because of the uncertainty, because of the ever-changing guidance and overall the circumstances around the pandemic, we have to be prepared for anything. In order to ensure that all students are receiving a high quality education, it's going to look different than what we experienced when we had to close schools kind of suddenly back in March. And so for 2020-21 school year, we are planning that we would have accountability. So we're looking at a learning management system like Schools PLP that would allow students to log in from home. Their attendance would be tracked, grades would be tracked. And so remote learning is going to look a lot different in 2020-21 if we have to utilize that method than it did when we ended the school year in March.
So just to be clear, district leaders will really be the ones to make that final decision on what method we enter school with for the school year. But parents do have a choice too, don't they?
Absolutely. So I'm glad you brought that. Ultimately, district leaders are going to have to make the decision based on data. So where are we at as far as COVID-19 data, but also our ability to follow guidelines, laws, mandates that are seemingly coming down every day. And so that's the district's options. But one thing that was very important to us, and especially as we listened to feedback from parents when we dispatched the surveys, and even our own employees, was to provide our families with choices. And so for the 2020-21 school year, we're going to be offering a virtual, it's a CMCSS K-12 virtual. And we've had virtual platforms in the past that have been for very specific groups. But this time we're opening it up to all parents who are interested. And so it's important for us to provide that option for many reasons. A lot of people don't realize we have 3,200 students who have underlying health conditions that put them at a higher risk with COVID-19. So we're talking about nearly 10% of our student population. We've got over 500 employees that are age 60 or older, and an uncounted number of employees that also have underlying health conditions. So we've got to think about those things as we provide choices for our families, because ultimately education is important, but there's nothing more important than the health and safety of our students, employees, and this entire community. So we recently hired an administrator for the CMCSS K-12 virtual, Ms. Hedrick, who is at Sango Elementary. And so what she'll be doing over the next couple of days and weeks is really putting together the application process, all of the logistics that parents need to know in order to get their students enrolled. So we just ask for patience. Just a couple weeks from now, we're anticipating being able to launch a video specifically about the CMCSS K-12 virtual, how to enroll, and other questions that families might have.
So if people have questions about virtual school or even any of the options that you've described, where can they go to find more information?
The CMCSS.net website, we're continuing to update information. We've got general COVID-19 related information about our free meals for children, which we just extended through July 31st. We have started CMCSS.net reopening. And on that page, we're essentially storing all of this information. So anytime that we push out an update or any kind of video or any kind of information about our reopening is going to be on that page.
Before you touched on the parent survey, and we have had a lot of questions surrounding the surveys in general, both to parents and families of students, but also the employees. Touch on and explain to us how important the feedback from stakeholders was in making decisions.
Getting feedback from families helps us understand where their comfortability level is, what options that they are seeking, what health and safety precautions are important to them. But one thing I do want to clarify, and I've seen other districts with this, is the survey that we dispatched for parents on June 5th and the one for employees, it wasn't necessarily a vote to say this is how the district needs to choose. It was more so that we could see where people might be comfortable to help us inform our decision about reopening. But again, I can't reiterate enough, the decision about reopening is also going to be the decision as we go through the entire school year. And that's another reason why it's so important to have this continuum of options. So that way, if we needed to close a building down for a day or a couple of days for extra sanitization or for quarantining folks, those students would not have a gap in their education. They would just be able to continue that remotely.
So it sounds like keeping the schools extremely sanitary this year. It's going to be a big priority, as keeping children healthy every year is a priority. But this year is going to look a little different, and one of those things that will look different are the masks, and that's been a big question from a lot of people.
So CMCSS hasn't made a final determination about exactly what masks, if they'll be worn, how they'll be worn, but we know that we need to take into consideration that there are students, employees with health conditions that might make it difficult or challenging to wear a mask, or a lot of research around younger children and are masks actually beneficial. So we're taking that all into consideration, and as we make a determination about next school year, we'll definitely be informing our families about what it will look like as far as masks and other health and safety precautions. Essentially, our goal operationally during the pandemic is to, of course, increase personal hygiene. And so that's one thing that parents can already start partnering with us now, is reinforcing best practices for personal hygiene and also the kind of temporary but new social interaction. So, not shaking hands, not giving hugs right now during this time. And so parents can help us by reinforcing that home, because at schools, that is definitely going to be something that's going to be crucial. If we have students in buildings, is regular washing hands, sanitizing, those little things that we take for granted, like how to properly cover your nose when you sneeze, that type of thing. And we're making changes to our attendance policy, and we're making revisions to our protocols, because if you're sick, especially during this time, you need to stay home. And so that's another thing is having those conversations now with your children about, if you're not feeling well, tell an adult. If you're, doing some self-screening at home, that type of thing.
When the new attendance policies are out, or any new information that's put out by the district, what's the best place for parents to go to find that information?
So, of course, I can't reiterate enough, cmcss.net is a great resource about everything related to the district in relation to COVID-19. The cmcss.net/reopening is where we're storing all the information kind of specific to reopening and the 2020-21 school year. The other thing that's important is, especially for our existing families, we'll continue pushing out information via School Messenger. That's why it's important now, and it's important in the future. If you feel like you're not getting messages, or you've heard other people get messages, just email questions@cmcss.net, and we'll make sure that your contact information is up to date in PowerSchool, so that way you can get School Messenger announcements. But right now, with everything that's going on around the pandemic and all the uncertainty, there are a lot of rumors that get spread. There is a lot of misinformation. So it's important that you check your sources. Typically, the district is not going to put something out that's not going to be on our social media website, and we're going to push out to local media. So just make sure during this time that you're checking sources and make sure you're getting the correct information.
Absolutely. And along with physical health, we definitely need to focus this year on mental health, and it's going to play a big role in our children's lives and in their education this year. So touch on what the school system is doing to actively be involved in children's mental health?
It's a very stressful situation. When your life is kind of feels like it's turned upside down, and you're used to certain routines, it's very uncomfortable. It causes stress, it causes anxiety. So if you or a family member are in crisis, please reach out for help. Right now, more than ever, there are people out there who are ready to listen and they're ready to help. We have resources on the CMCSS website, and that's something that we're continuing to build for next year as well. So in our reopening plans, one of the major categories is social emotional learning and the support that we're going to provide.
Well, this has all been great information, and I think you've probably calmed a lot of parents' concerns about reopening and about the school year next year. But, you know, the biggest question on everyone's mind, when will they know? When will the decision be made?
The district is committed to making a decision regarding how schools will look as we reopen on that continuum of options at least a month ahead of the first day that the board approved, which is August 11th is the first half day, and then we have another half day August 12th. And so we're kind of calling that August 11th would be like a soft opening. And so no matter what the circumstances look like or however we reopen, that's the day that has been approved. But one thing I can't say enough about this school year, and I think most people understand, is that we all will have to remain flexible. There could be changes that are made. There may be actions or orders that are beyond our control. And so we're all going to be in this together. And the district is committed to making timely updates and being as transparent as possible about everything that's going on. So just continue to check the website. We'll continue to push information out. But again, our goal is a month ahead of the first day of school.
This has been wonderful. Thank you so much for your time, and we really appreciate it. And any additional information that parents, employees, the community needs, go to cmcss.net, and you'll find COVID-19 related information, health and safety information, and anything about the 2020-2021 school year.
Absolutely. I do want to note, too, that on the reopening page, there is an opportunity for all stakeholders to provide feedback or to ask questions. And so I encourage anyone who's got questions or has feedback about the reopening plans to use that link that's right there at the bottom of the page. And we're continuously monitoring that and looking at information. And that helps inform a video series like this to help us break down what are those burning questions that families have.
Absolutely. Well, thank you.
Thank you.